welcome to what promises to be another interesting webinar, this time about the promotion of cities as study destinations. And even though we are all again staring at a screen, at least this time we're going to take you places. We're going to take you to Stockholm, Buenos Aires, Sydney, and Montreal, all corners of the world and all cities that recognize the value of international students and that have implemented a successful strategy to attract this often underestimated demographic. So why are we talking about the promotion of cities as a study destination? Why is this relevant? Why is this relevant now? Two reasons, or let's say, why is it relevant in general? It's relevant because international students are a very attractive demographic for destination marketing organizations to focus on. Where most destination marketing organizations, or DMOs, spend their budgets on attracting different types of tourists or business travelers, little do they know that international students stay longer, spend more, participate, and contribute to the local economy. For example, in the US, according to a recent NAFSA study, for each 100 international students, 40 jobs are created. International students add to the profile and appeal and the status of the institutions they attend, and as such to the profile of the cities they study in. Their parents, their families, their friends will come visit, so here are your tourists. And international students will be a lifelong ambassador for the city where they study, and they tend to come back and visit themselves when they're older with their own families. So why is this topic relevant now? And there's where we have two reasons. First of all, the current pandemic gives cities and their DMOs an unprecedented opportunity to reevaluate their approach to international visitors. Is it the time to, will they return to the same levels as before, same tourism levels as before, focus on the tourists and the business travelers, or is this the moment to develop a strategy to attract more international students? More about that later. Second reason it's relevant now is because there are millions of international students currently on hold, currently waiting and eager for borders to open and travel to their destination cities and study. However, they may change their choice of destination because of how the city has responded to COVID. How has the city treated their international students? Have they supported the international students? Have there been changes in visa rules? Students are more and more looking for more safety and more security. And this also applies to the next batch of international students. They're looking for safety, looking for security, and the decision-making processes may be different. Because they're more looking for more security, safety, guidance, more students will be turning to student recruitment agencies. The agencies will help them make the right choice, where to study, which country, and which school. But also, if something were to happen, it's the agencies that will support the students, guide them, and help them find solutions. So any city or any DMO, destination marketing organization, that aims to attract more international students should include the international student recruitment agencies in their strategies, especially now. Joining me for the webinar today are Maria Fogelstrom Kylberg. Maria is the CEO of the Stockholm Academic Forum and Study in Stockholm. Hey Maria, hur mår du? Waiting for Maria to appear. She'll appear in a second. And also, there's Maria. Hi Maria.
Hi Martijn.
Hur mår du?
Jag mår bra.
Good. That's as far as my Swedish goes. Francisco Resnicoff is joining us as well, all the way from Buenos Aires, 9 o'clock in the morning. Francisco is the Undersecretary of International Institutional Relations for the government of the city of Buenos Aires and representing study in Buenos Aires. Muy buenos días, Francisco.
Gracias, Martín. Very nice to be here.
Also joining us all the way from Sydney, David Riordan, Director of City Services for the City of Sydney. Good evening, David.
Good evening, and thank you very much for having me.
Very happy to have you. Puis ensuite, Mathieu Lefort, Directeur International Students for Montreal International. Bonjour et bienvenue.
Bonjour, Martin. Thank you very much to everyone.
Great to have you all here. We'll have proper introductions later in the webinar because this webinar is divided into 4 sections, and each separate section will be focusing on one city and their strategy towards international students, and each section from a different angle. The audience can put forward questions through the Q&A button at the at the bottom of your screen. My colleague Shannon will be answering questions, or she'll put some of them forward to me to be treated live in the webinar. Any question that does not get answered in the webinar or by Shannon during the webinar will be responded to afterwards. We also have at the beginning of each section a poll for the audience because we're curious to have the feedback of the audience or impressions or answers on the destinations that we will be discussing. Last but not least, just to mention, this webinar is recorded, and you will receive, all the audience members will be receiving a link to the recording, and all those that could not join us here now will be sent that same link as well. For now, thank you, Francisco, Mathieu, and David. We're going to start with the first section, which is with Stockholm, with Maria. Maria, before we dive into Stockholm and all the exciting things that Stockholm has to offer, we're just going to put up a poll and give the audience some time to answer to the poll. And that poll is about Alfred Nobel. So I'll read it out. Stockholm is famous for the Nobel Prize, of course, for physics, chemistry, economics, medicine, and literature. Which Stockholm institution did Alfred himself obtain his degree from? Was it Karolinska Institutet? Apologies for the pronunciation, Maria. Is it the Royal Institute of Technology, Stockholm University, or maybe he didn't even graduate from any university? We'll give you all some time to respond, and that allows me to ask Maria to introduce herself in some more detail, your role at Study in Stockholm, and then we'll start our discussion. Maria.
Yes, thank you, Martin. Thank you for inviting Stockholm. We're very honored to be part of this. Well, I am the CEO of the Stockholm Academic Forum, which is a network consisting of all 18 universities that you find in the Stockholm region, together with the city of Stockholm. And I've been here since 2013, and our main purpose with the network is to, not the main, but one of the most important things we do is to promote Stockholm as an academic destination towards international students and scholars.
Right, thank you very much, Maria. We're going to hear more about Stockholm and your promotion towards students. First, let's see how the audience has responded to the poll. Let's see how much they know about Alfred. So we'll put up the results. As you can see, the majority is indeed aware that he never graduated from any university. Is there anything you'd like to say about that, Maria?
Well-educated audience, I would say.
I can only agree. Now, the funny thing is that even though Alfred did not graduate from any Stockholm University, of course, your role is to make sure that many students do identify one of these 3 or the other 15, I believe, institutions that work together in promotion of Stockholm as a study destination. Maybe you can start telling me a little bit about that, how the Stockholm government and the institutions came together. Whose initiative was that? And what's the structure of that group that promotes Stockholm?
Well, the story is actually, it started quite long ago in 1998, I think. I wasn't here then. Initiative came from a person in the Karolinska Institute, and at the beginning the purpose was to bring science more close to the citizens of Stockholm. But it has changed during the years. For a while, it was a common forum to present different educations that Stockholm had to offer. But since I am here, we work with the promotion of the city. You can say that the universities themselves do a lot of marketing and, of course, information and communication about their own educations, programs and research. But what we do here is to talk about the things that are in common. It's actually the city, the place, Stockholm, and what it has to offer a student or a scholar who is coming here. So if you want to dig in deeper into what the universities has to offer, then we guide them directly to the university. So we are a kind of umbrella organization to talk about the place. And also the city, of course, has a big interest in this, since cooperation between academia and the city is very close. At both sides, they understand how important they are to each other.
And I have some more questions about that. Actually, we've asked all the participants to provide us with a short excerpt of their promotional videos. So maybe let's share that with the audience, let them have a look at Stockholm, and then we'll continue our chat. It's a 30-second video for students. Great video, Maria. It of course gives everyone appetite to go to Stockholm right away. We see some choices that have been made behind this video, certain angles of Stockholm that were highlighted. Can you tell me a little bit more about those choices and to distinguish Stockholm from other destinations?
Oh, that's a difficult question. Stockholm is unique, of course, I think. We try to show Stockholm from the point of, from the students' view. It's not when we launched the Study in Stockholm website in 2014, we produced all the material and content ourselves. But we noticed that we didn't really reach out to the target group, to the students, because we're not living the same lives. So we started then to use and to cooperate with international students in Stockholm. So they are today the producers of our content on the websites and also in social media linked to the Study in Stockholm. And we try to show the Stockholm that they appreciate. What I, as a Swede, appreciate in Stockholm and see is absolutely not the same as an international person look at or appreciate. So this film, I think, reflects brief clips of what international students like in Stockholm and what they would like to highlight.
Right, so you really put yourself in the position of the international students, and you tend to look at your city through their eyes.
Yeah.
In the preparations for this webinar, you mentioned that it's very important for Study in Stockholm to include the target group in the actual promotion.
Yes, I think it's quite common that when you market something like a place, you always, or a country or so, you, as a national from that country, you highlight things that you appreciate, but it's maybe not that other people look at. For security, for example, for a Swede, it's obvious that Stockholm is a secure city. But maybe if you don't come from a place which is very secure, that could be the first thing you think about. So it's more important to highlight those. We listen to the students, actually, what they like and what they appreciate. So they are producing, we regularly engage student ambassadors and writers. We recruit them through social media and our website. And then they come to us and write. We discuss what they should talk about in different channels, and then they do that with support from us.
Right. You mentioned a secure city, and I think we can agree that Stockholm is known for that.
Yes.
Now, in the current pandemic, of course, safety, security, health are all very important topics. Sweden's been in the news for a number of reasons on COVID. How does the COVID pandemic affect your strategy towards international students? Are you adjusting your strategy? Are you highlighting that Stockholm is or will be a safe place to go to?
No, we haven't. We haven't specifically talked about that. We hear at the universities, we follow our member universities, what they are doing and how it's mainly them that are, they have to react to this, of course. We have a smaller number of international students this year. of course.
Right.
Yeah. But if not, that's not really our thing to do. We talk about it, of course.
Yeah.
But we haven't taken any special measures.
Right, right. Of course, it's also very unknown what the new normal will look like, and I can imagine that you are keeping a close look on how things are.
Yes, we have a large number of students from third countries, of course, and that will be a big impact, of course. Largest students groups are from China and India, for example.
Yeah, yeah. I noticed that China is indeed a growing demographic there, where I believe Germany and Finland were the main source countries for a number of years.
Yes.
China, that is now a thing that eats. So they're willing and able to pay the tuition fees, because in Sweden, I believe tuition fees have been introduced only recently, 2014?
2011.
11?
Yes.
That must have been a challenge for a destination. I guess one of the unique selling points would have been no tuition fees.
No, of course, we could see a big decrease of international students from third countries come to Sweden. So we had to get up from that situation. And today we are back to the levels we had before the introduction of fees.
Yeah, right.
A lot of work from the universities themselves and from us to promote Stockholm.
Right. The number of Indian students is also growing, you say. Is that a specific target for your campaign? So the video we just saw, how is that? How did you reach your Indian students? What kind of channels have you been using?
We use student organizations at the universities to reach out to find these people. And we put up, we use Instagram. We are looking for, we put up ads like, would you like to be a guest editor at Study in Stockholm? And so they come to us. It's a bit tricky, but we find them.
And why is it tricky?
It's always difficult to reach out to people who you don't know them already. So you maybe trust social media a little bit too much sometimes. It's not that easy always to go to find them.
And what have you learned from your media approach? What have you, for example, during the years, what have you changed and improved?
Well, I think the big improvement is to work to let the students themselves write. The other thing is that I think that we expected a little bit too much from social medias. We tried to launch different competitions to have an engagement from the students, to get them active, but they didn't really reply to those competitions. So. But what we have learned and seen is that irony and humor is fun. And then when you play a bit in Sweden, you all know probably that half of the year is dark and cold here. So you cannot only show pictures of sun, archipelago, and swimming and bathing. You also have to show the other half of the year. And many Swedes don't like winter, but we have so many international students who think that is very exotic. They like the winter. They don't think it's that dark. And they come here just because of that. But we can play with it because it's quite tiring when the day is black all the time. So we can do funny things with that. And that is highly appreciated.
I can imagine, Maria. I noticed in your video the term to Swedify. So to use irony and humor, is that an example of to Swedify something?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I got a question here from through the Q&A. At what point in the student decision-making process do you see your organization having the most impact? In the early research phase or in parallel?
I think maybe in the early phase. I think so.
Mm-hmm.
We are always checking, of course, we're looking at statistics and analytics, what people, how they walk through the website and so on. But I think it's mainly before you come here. Right.
You also mentioned in the preparation that you start aiming at your demographic when they're like 16, 17. So this would answer the question as well, right? Is that correct? Is that the...
From the beginning, when we worked with this website, with the Study in Stockholm, we looked up on the target group a bit. We thought they were a bit older, but we have learned in the process that people are much younger, actually, when they start to think about the future university studies. So we switched a bit and made it a bit younger. Yeah, from 16, I would say, yeah, 16.
And do you already work with student recruitment agencies who are, of course, could be representative of study in Stockholm, especially in countries like China and India, where you're seeing so much growth?
We at Stockholm Academic Forum, we don't do that directly. That is something for those departments at the universities themselves. We are doing the overall promotion, but not directly with recruitment agencies.
Right. And one last question from the audience for you. With COVID not permitting many students to travel, what role do student recruitment agencies have now if students move to online? How can you support education providers in your cities?
Oh, I'm not sure I got the question.
It's just about, so now we don't have a lot of students actually traveling into Stockholm, like in any destination, but your organization, of course, active and working with these institutions to promote Stockholm. Is there anything you're doing currently for those students that were supposed to come to Stockholm but are studying online?
Well, we continue our work as normal, but I know the universities, for example, they have, you can study online on distance, and they try to keep contact, of course, with international students, but I don't really know. We don't do that kind of work.
It's really institutions that have that relationship directly, more than the marketing are. So really interesting how then from 2011, suddenly Sweden started to charge tuition fees, and then since a few years later, you study in Stockholm. So you've clearly been very successful in attracting students willing to pay for the high quality institutions in Stockholm. So in that process, starting from scratch, can you share with us something that didn't work, something that was a lesson learned for your organization?
Well, I think I have to go back to that social media thing when we really started to work intensively with that and trying to reach out and to get more and more followers, because that's what you want with your communication. And we try to engage them with these kind of competitions. We offer them cinema tickets and everything, but it was really, really bad response. So we skipped that.
Right. And how did you replace that?
Yeah.
What did you replace that with?
Well, we tried, the goal is to reach out and to get more followers and people who like what you do, and also to choose to come here. So that's when we started to, instead of making competitions and get engagement that way. Of course, the best is when one student like what we do and then spread it away. So we have learned a lot how to reach out to the students, and often with humor, or maybe with subjects that are a little bit sensitive, that you should avoid. I know we have very good articles on our website, for example, for the HBTQ community. You should never be afraid of talking about those things, because we have much appreciated voices about that, for example.
It's definitely a distinguishing factor, right? The open-minded spirit of Stockholm and the institutions.
And reality, to show how everything is, good expectations. You have to meet the expectations and show things as they are, and not try to highlight things that are not.
Yeah, say the things the way they are, very direct.
I think that's important, yeah. And
that's definitely very important. Let's see if we have a question for you from Francisco Resnicoff from Buenos Aires. Francisco, welcome back in the webinar. Francisco, it's 9 o'clock in the morning with a fresh mind. I'm sure you've been listening with full interest to what Maria had to say. Is there anything you'd like to ask Maria about her approach in Stockholm?
Yes, thank you, Martin, and thank you, Maria, for your presentation. I think it was quite interesting. So one thing that we've been doing since the beginning of our own program is to try to measure and to create statistics and reliable information about international students in our city and its impact. So I will like to ask Maria precisely that. How do you measure the success of the program in Stockholm?
Well, what we can do, that's always a tricky question, because you cannot really exactly measure. We have the National Institute of Statistics, and of course that can tell us exactly how the international student group look like. And what we can see is the number of applications, of course, if they're increasing or not. And we can see that the number of, for example, since we started this, let's hope it's related to our work, but since the number of international students in Stockholm has increased by 26% since 2013. So we can see that the curve it's following our work anyway. It's in a positive direction, and so to look at the statistics and see the number of applications, I think that's the most easy way to see the direct result. Then of course you can measure, we always measure by Google Analytics, and so activities on the website, how many people are following, all those quite simple social media measurements. But I think the statistics for applications is maybe the most.
It's a good tool to measure, indeed. Maria, before we switch to you, Francisco, one last question for Maria, also from the audience. And I'm glad that that question is answered because it's interesting. How is the forum funded, or how is Study in Stockholm as an organization funded?
How it's funded? Oh, it's member fees from the universities themselves. And 30% of our financing comes from the city of Stockholm. Right,
so it's really a good cooperation example how institutions, yes, local government bodies work together. Has there ever been talk about accommodation providers or local businesses to join this effort?
No, this is a non-profit. We will never go into the tourist side of it. So this is really academia together with the city. I think it will remain like that. We cooperate, of course, but not for financing.
Yeah, interesting. Thanks, Maria. We'll get you back towards the end, and we're moving on to Buenos Aires. Francisco. Francisco, you're the Undersecretary of International and Institutional Relations for the government of the city of Buenos Aires. We'd love you to tell us a little bit more about that and your role. Before we do, of course, we have another poll for the audience related to Buenos Aires. We'd like the audience to let us know what impression they have of Buenos Aires when it comes to studying in Buenos Aires. You can have more than one answer. So whilst the audience is answering, Francisco, do tell us a little bit more about your background and role in Study Buenos Aires.
Yes, sure. So as you said, I'm the Undersecretary of International Relations of the city, and that's an important thing to say because, as Maria was saying, that the Stockholm is not part of the tourist board or nothing to do with tourists per se. In Buenos Aires is more or less the same. It's part of the international projection strategy of the city, attracting students. We don't see them as in the light of as tourists, but as part of our international positioning and international action. So I manage all the international relations of the city related to strategy and the agenda of the mayor as well. And I've been doing this since 2015.
And thank you, Francisco. How and since when does the initiative Study Buenos Aires exist?
It started in at the end of 2016. We at the same time we were developing the international projection strategy of the city, and we were very much focused on visitors at large, right? How to make of Buenos Aires a great urban destination for every type of visitors: tourists, students, businesses, and people willing to come here to live. So we started a few years back. It's much newer than the experience in Stockholm, but we have had quite some success doing it.
And that success, Francisco, is based, according to a statement from you that I received from you, on what, as you say, quote unquote, the importance of developing an international students policy for the city and how we work together with our universities. What comes down to the partnerships with local institutions and local bodies. Can you explain that to us, please?
Yes, of course. So, for a city such as Buenos Aires, which is global but still relatively unknown, with good universities, good quality of education, but a little too far away from many potential international students interested in Buenos Aires, we had to have a special policy focused on mobility of international students to the city. So one thing that we knew from the beginning is that we needed to create different plans, different strategy to attract international students, to make them feel well and contained when they arrive to Buenos Aires, and to again to generate reliable statistics about it. So we knew that kind of effort is not only the responsibility of the city government, but it had to be also part of the strategy of the universities of the city. Buenos Aires is a university city. It doesn't look like, because the universities are all over the place, so we don't have a campus, for example, but we do have about 30 universities in the entire metropolitan area of Buenos Aires. So what we did was to reach out to universities, telling that we wanted to improve the positioning of Buenos Aires as a study destination, and propose to them to do it together. So we signed MOUs with 25 local universities, especially with the international relations or international affairs offices, and we started to work mainly with the coordination and the funding of the city of Buenos Aires, but at the end it's a co-created program with all the universities as well.
Right, so it's really a joint effort, putting Buenos Aires on the map of international students. So which probably an interesting moment now to look at the results of the poll, what impression the audience has on Buenos Aires as a study destination. So let's look at the results. And you see cultural diversity is by far #1 score, and the rest is more or less competitive prices, quality of life. Is this what you expected, Francisco, as a result, cultural diversity, or would you prefer to work more on, let's say, academic excellence growing as a reason why people come to Buenos Aires?
No, again, as Maria said, a very well-informed audience. I mean, cultural diversity is definitely an asset of the city, but I would say all of the above is perfect as well. And that's actually one of the key elements that we thought about when we created the program. We do have academic excellence. We have very good universities, some of the best in Latin America. We are very competitive in prices. Cultural diversity is, of course, a landmark of the city. And the quality of life for a very, very large city is quite good. So we do have all those which come with the city. We don't have much to do with that as government. What can we do to position all this and to attract more students, and what more can we offer to the students? So the answers to the poll are very much in line with what we thought about before creating the program.
Right, very interesting. Well, let's see if that's reflected in the excerpt that you sent us for the of the video that promotes Buenos Aires. Let's have a look at your beautiful city. That gives appetite to dance some tango in Buenos Aires. And of course, it's very tempting to start talking about football, soccer right now, and look at Buenos Aires. But let's stick to the topic. Francisco, great video, and again, a very attractive destination. Now, of course, it's a competing world out there. If we go back to the poll answer, is cultural diversity, is that, let's say if you would work with student recruitment agencies and they would be promoting Buenos Aires, is that something you really would like them to focus on? Or what other elements is Buenos Aires working on to make the destination attractive to the international students?
So yeah, for sure, cultural destination is a great asset of the city. Many students come to the city precisely because of that. Before the pandemic, we had a few elements to claim that that was actually a true statement. For example, we had the largest one of the largest libraries per capita in the entire world, one of the largest theaters per capita in the entire world. And we tend to take the culture of the city outside. So we do have a lot of festivals and concerts and all those kind of things in the public space in the parks and all these kind of things. A lot of that is for free. It's organized by the city or by other actors, but still free. We do have one of the most vibrant independent theater circuits for sure in Latin America, but that I would dare to say that is true at the global level. So cultural diversity for sure. We are a city of immigrants in which all the different cultures coexist very in peace. I mean, we don't have any kind of issues related to that. So many students feel at home when they come to Buenos Aires. So that for sure is a key element. The other element I would say is, and related to that, part of the program, one of the lines of work of Study Buenos Aires was to offer more than 70 different activities per year for international students for free. So if you're an international student and you sign up for as part of the Study Buenos Aires program, you go online and sign up. You immediately get access to 70 activities organized by the city government. You can just go and you will, for example, to a theater, to a museum, to a football match for free, organized by the city government, and that allows students to have an experience of that kind in Buenos Aires. Actually, the images that you saw of young people at the stadiums or all that kind of stuff, those are actually international students in a Study Buenos Aires activity. So that's for sure. And the other element I think is very important is academic quality. We have many different universities in the city, and some of them are very well ranked in the university rankings. So that's a key element, and that has been a key attractor in especially for regional students from all Latin America that seek to come to Buenos Aires because of the academic excellence. You know that we are, I think, the only country in the entire Latin America that has 5 Nobel Prizes, and all of them come from universities located in the city. So that's also a very good asset that we have.
That's definitely very impressive, Francisco, and nice how you're bringing back Alfred Nobel into this. But you can be very proud of that. Now, this of course reflects the pre-COVID world. Happy students, great results, growing numbers. We got a question here from the audience about, of course, the current situation, which we should not avoid. How big of an impact do you expect COVID to have on student recruitment this year for universities in Buenos Aires and Argentina in generally? So this year, and I would say also in the new normal.
Yeah, of course. So we are experiencing, and we expect a huge blow to international mobility in general, and international students in particular. So just to give you an idea, in 2018 we had about 90,000 international students living in the city. Most of them are I would say, non-university students, so exchange students are not seeking a degree from a local university, so exchange students or people that came to do short courses. But 23,000 of those were degree seekers from a local institution, so both undergrad and graduate students. So for those the impact has been huge. And we expect a very high, we expect a drop next year. We are being a little bit too optimistic, and we think that the drop will be around 20 to 50% of the total. But we are still revising that number, day by day, and trying to identify trends and all those kind of things. Argentina is one of the countries that hasn't yet opened its borders, so there's no commercial flights to Argentina right now. That might change next month, but we are not sure about it. That's a decision of the national government. But the impact will be great next year. We are working on several different initiatives to be already prepared for that situation. If you want, I can tell you a little bit about that.
That'd be interesting. I'd also like to know to what extent, let's say, you say the city government, of course, has a very big role in the promotion of Buenos Aires towards international students. Now, the pandemic offers that opportunity for any city to reassess their promotional strategies. Where is the international student as a demographic? Where's the priority? Is that a priority in a post-COVID world, or is the city maybe shifting to other demographics?
No, that's an absolute priority. Our mayor is he always talks a lot about it in its interventions. We do have twice a year a meeting of the mayor with all the deans of the presidents of the universities that are part of the Study Buenos Aires. We had the last one 2 weeks ago, and that it was very clear from that meeting that international students were going to remain as a key demographic for Buenos Aires. And that's we did a study last year which said that international students leave to the city about $600 million per year. And that's about 0.6, 0.7 of the total GDP of the city. So for us, it is an absolutely priority to keep attracting international students. And I would say that for a city such as Buenos Aires, we are part of the global South. We will not have access in the same kind of other cities to recovery packages and to different forms of help or for the recovery. We need to rely on the economy of the visitor, to put it in a way. So because that's going to be key to the reactivation of the economy. I'm not saying that's not the case for other cities, but for Buenos Aires will be absolutely key. So in that sense, seeing students as one form of visitors is going to be key next year. And that's why we are preparing the city to do so.
That's great to hear, Francisco, and it's interesting to hear how students are a high priority. I guess if we to look at Sydney, I think international students are vital. David, may I ask you to join us? David's representing Sydney, of course, a very famous and well-known destination for international students, and where Stockholm and Buenos Aires have started that promotion relatively recently. I think Sydney has been out there all the time, welcoming international students. David, when you hear Francisco, is there anything that you'd like to refer to or highlight?
Yes, I suppose, first of all, thank you very much for having me, and I'm very excited to be here, even though it's very late at night in Sydney. I suppose, Francisco, I just wanted to ask you, international students that go to Buenos Aires, do they only study in universities, or do they go to vocational education colleges? Do they go to language colleges? Do you have international students studying a range of programs?
Yes, we do have, it's very, I would say, diverse in a way. So as I was saying, of the almost 93,000 students that we registered in 2018, about 70,000 were non-degree seekers. So and most of them were people coming to do short-term courses, for example, language, to learn Spanish, and a little bit of those are exchange students as well. So those depend on agreements between universities that we don't manage. And only 23,000 of all of them are undergrad or graduate students in universities of the city. So it's very diverse. That makes us to come up with different strategies for each one, and we do have very well identified what's our goal. So our goal for next year is to recover the stock, at least in part, that we had before the pandemic. But once we do that, we would like to focus on graduate students, especially to increase the number of graduate students coming to Buenos Aires.
Thank you.
Very, very interesting, and that brings me to. We'll see you back later at the webinar, Francisco. Thank you. Well, I'm talking about focus, David. Let's talk about that with you as well. Before we do, we're going to pull up a nice poll related to Sydney, see what the audience knows in terms of how many universities, colleges, vocational education training providers, and schools in Sydney are open for international students. Well, it's, no matter the answer, it's a lot already. David, allow us to listen a little bit to your background with Sydney as a study destination.
So yes, thank you. So I'm the Director of City Services at the City of Sydney. And as most people around the world would know, Sydney's our largest city in Australia. I've been the Director of City Services for the last 4 years, and my responsibility is to oversee the provision of all of the services to the City of Sydney. But prior to that, I was involved in education, and particularly international education, for many years. From 2010 and 2016, I was the CEO of Australia's largest vocational education and training college. And prior to that, I was the CEO of the Department of Education and Training International. So I've been involved in international education. I've worked overseas. I've managed projects overseas, but also been heavily involved with international students for many years.
So David, you're definitely very experienced, and will have a lot of advice for all of us on the promotion of cities as a study destination. I guess the success of Sydney as a study destination is reflected in the right answer for the poll. Let's pull up the results and see what the audience thinks of the number of institutions. David, it's not the right answer, is it?
No, it's not. And it's always a bit of a shock when we ask this question, because really Sydney has a large number of universities, colleges, vocational education and training providers and schools that are welcoming international students. And the correct answer is 550 in Sydney. So it's a large business, a large part of the fabric of Sydney. And
when you say 515, that's indeed a very impressive number. That's, of course, in a pre-pandemic situation. Not to be negative or anything here, but how do you expect that number to have changed, if at all, in a post-pandemic world? And what will the City of Sydney do to get the students back?
So before I answer that question, I should just wish everybody all around the world all the best during these very, very difficult days. And Sydney, like every other city in the world, is battling this pandemic. The impact on our educational providers is yet to be seen. Similar to other speakers, Australia has closed its borders at the moment. So we have international students here who were here prior to the pandemic. And we've also got a large number of international students who are studying offshore through online programs, and we're very keen to be welcoming international students back. Of course, as Francisco said and Maria said before that, the impact on our industry is yet to be known, and it's going to be a large impact. And so we don't know how many of those 550 will be there, but we're hoping the bulk of them will be there, and we're hoping that we'll be returning to pre-COVID numbers as soon as we move through this pandemic.
Yeah, we all hope that indeed. Well, I actually expect it to be a large number of those students that currently cannot travel. Then there will be the next batch of students, so there will be a peak, and then we're hoping to be on a road to recovery. For that road, what activities does Sydney have to support the return of international students?
So first of all, the first thing that I think we have recognised in Australia, and particularly at Sydney, is the importance of the word of mouth. What is the experience like for international students? Because every international student eventually returns home and tells their family, their friends, their colleagues what their experience was like. Also, we acknowledge the fact that many of our international students end up going back to their countries and being leaders, captains of industries, politicians. So the most important thing for the City of Sydney is to ensure that we provide the best possible experience for international students. I think in the past, a lot of time has been spent focusing on one particular aspect, whether it be the quality of the provider or the destination of the city. What we try to do in Sydney is provide a holistic approach to the marketing for international students. By and large, similar to other speakers, the marketing is conducted by our providers, by our universities, our vocational colleges, and we work with them to assist them in that. Of course, we believe, and I, as Director of City Services, I believe everything that we do every day is about promoting the city as a safe destination, as a quality destination, as a destination that has got quality education providers. I think there was always an opinion some years ago that, you know, Sydney and Australia was about beaches and sunshine. And of course, what we've tried to do over the recent years is to show that we're much more than just beaches and sunshine and fun, that actually we have some of us, the high-ranking universities in the world, one of the best vocational education and training systems, large number of English language colleges. And I think that's become really important in our marketing, to make sure that it's a holistic approach. It's not just about the educational experience, which of course is the number one issue that people are using to make the decision as to where they're going to go, as to the quality of the education. But there's also a lot of other issues that people take into account when they're making that decision.
Definitely, and we should definitely underestimate them. It brings us back to another topic where, for example, what role does EdTech have in international education? And we realize that there is a role for EdTech, but nothing will replace the experience to study abroad. Talking about marketing, let's see how you have translated that into your video. We have a 30-second for Sydney as well.
There are nearly 1,600 international students here from 28 nations and from 57 educational institutions.
To each and every one of you, welcome to my country, welcome to your country, welcome to our country. May the spirits of my ancestors walk beside you and protect you.
Welcome to Sydney and have a great time while you are here.
Thank you very much for that. That was interesting, David. So how did this video come about?
So I suppose in the end, we could have shown a video of the Opera House and the bridge and our beaches. But what we wanted to do was really show you two very important things, and that is the importance of international students to our city. And our Lord Mayor is there, that she has a welcome event for international students, and those international students who can make it do. And that's a very exciting moment, but it's also an opportunity for us to show the world how important international students are to us. And of course, you saw one of the speakers was in fact one of our Aboriginal elders, a member of our Indigenous people, who are also welcoming people to their country and to our country, and explaining that everybody who comes here is welcome and hopefully has a safe and exciting and quality experience. And so that video was really showing about the importance of international students as part of the fabric of Sydney.
Very interesting indeed. Actually, I noticed that that person said that welcome to your country. Is that the message you want? You want students to feel that welcome, that they consider it their country because they're really from?
So as people would know, Aboriginal people have been in Australia for in excess of 40,000 years, and so the Aboriginal countries were a large number of different countries across the nation. And so at every official event, we would ask an Aboriginal elder to come and welcome people to the country that we're on. So for the moment, where I am sitting, we're on the Gadigal land of the Eora Nation, and so normally what I would be doing would be acknowledging those people as the first inhabitants of this land.
That is a great initiative. And is that something that that is used in positioning Sydney comparing to other cities? For example, I just got a question here from the audience. How do you position Sydney when you compare with other study destinations such as the UK, the US, and Canada? Now, those are all countries, of course, but I guess you get the question.
So I suppose, as I've said before, the quality of our educational experience, but as I said, I think the thing that separates us is the fact that the city is trying to move into a campaign of welcoming, well-being and work-integrated learning. So that's really important, that we welcome students, that we provide support for their well-being, and that we give people an opportunity while they're studying here to have an experience outside of the academic experience. So working in the city, being a part of the city, being a volunteer in the city, and of course having that connection with our history of 40,000 years is also sets us apart from many nations. So I think that we've got a whole, as I said earlier, a holistic approach to separating us and differentiating our cities, and particularly Sydney, from other cities around the world. And of course Sydney is the gateway city to Australia. So aside from being a beautiful city and having wonderful weather, it's got so many other attractive features.
So much to talk about, indeed. Now, about the construct of the body that you represent, that also promotes Sydney as a study destination. Can you tell us a little bit about how it's shaped, its organizations that are involved, the structure?
So I work for local government. So Australia has 3 tiers of government. We have a federal government that manages a whole range of major issues for the whole of the nation. Then we have state governments, and then we have local governments. And so the City of Sydney and the organisation I work for is a local government organisation, and it's funded by taxes from the people. And it's through partnerships with our providers that we end up being able to promote the city. So it's partnerships with universities, partnerships with our industry, partnerships with business, partnerships with our community, and to show that Sydney has, as I said, a holistic approach. And it's really important that we are seen to be a local government organisation that is very interested and committed to international students. And I have some data here. Prior to COVID, at any one time, we would have about 170,000 students coming into the city. And that creates about 50,000 jobs and was bringing in about 5.87 billion Australian dollars. So this is a major part of the fabric of our city, and that's why our city is so heavily involved in working with educational providers to attract students.
Interesting. Those are, of course, very impressive numbers, and I hope and I imagine for you that after COVID we'll get back to these numbers. Now, it's of course a competitive world out there. You're competing with cities around the world, but I would imagine you're also competing with, let's say, Melbourne or Brisbane. Or are you actually looking to work together with them to attract students to Australia? Maybe now.
So, I mean, it's a combination, really. I suppose in the end, prior to COVID, we were the second or third destination Australia was for international students. And of course, Sydney is the one that has the largest number of international students. I think last year we had about, in Australia, I think it was close to 700,000 international students in the country. That's a country of 25 million. So this is a very large business for the nation. And of course, what we do is we try and encourage the cities to work together, but also we acknowledge that universities and providers are also going to be advertising and marketing their own businesses, their own courses, and their own particular model of delivery. So it is a combination of working together, but also acknowledging that, you know, our universities will also market their own courses internationally, as will vocational providers and English language providers and schools.
Very clear. And it's of course good they work all together for the common effort. Let's see how that is going in Montreal. Mathieu Lefort, who is the director of Montreal International, is with us today. It's early morning for Mathieu. And Mathieu, when you're listening to someone as experienced as David and the stuff he's been telling us about how they promote Sydney, do you think, are there things you can learn from him, or is there anything you'd like to ask.
Yeah. Thank you, David, for the great presentation, and thank you, Martijn, for having me. So, David, obviously you have a broad experience in vocational education and training. So, I was wondering if you could tell me and the audience what are maybe a few key ingredients for an efficient promotion strategy regarding vocational training and education, because it's a big part of Australia, obviously.
Yes, and I think one of the most important things, there's two things that I would say. And one is that vocational education and training in Australia is very closely linked to industry. And that means it's very closely linked to job outcomes. So the training that you receive with a vocational education and training provider in Australia will provide you with job-ready qualifications so that you can move straight into industry and start working. But I think the other thing that's really important with vocational education and training in Australia is its flexibility, and the fact that we now, both at universities and vocational education and training, are really promoting that concept of short courses and micro-credentials, and so that people can start to mix and match according to their own career needs and their own aspirations. So I'd say the links with industry and the flexibility are the two things that are really important with the vocational education and training industry in Australia.
Great, thanks, David. I think the mix and match is definitely interesting. We see that, again, if we can look at the edtech world as well, we see students now trying to be creative, and the agencies that represent them in finding ways to start studying whilst they're waiting for the borders to reopen. And let's all hope that is going to open rather sooner than later. Thank you, David. We'll see you back in towards the end of the webinar. We're moving on to Montreal. Mathieu, good morning. Bonjour.
Good morning.
Great to have you with us. I would say that Montreal is also a relatively recent initiative to promote your city. We'll dig into that in a second, but again, we start with a poll related to Montreal as a study destination. And here we are asking the audience, what percentage of the population in Greater Montreal speaks 3 or more languages? And whilst the results are coming in, Mathieu, tell us a little bit about your role within Montréal International.
Yes, of course. So I'm responsible for the international students projects at Montreal International. Montreal International is an economic development agency for the greater Montreal area, the metropolitan area. And all our international student projects are under our branding, I Choose Montreal, Je Choisis Montréal. And we launched our activities in 2016. So it's recent, but obviously Montreal International was created in 1996. So we have great experience and expertise to work with international students. And of course, we have close links with the government. I Choose Montreal is an initiative. It's a partnership with the Quebec government, but it's also close collaboration with all the educational institutions at every study level.
Thank you, Mathieu. When you say the large involvement of the Quebec government, would that mean that this also is towards promoting Quebec City and other places in Quebec, or is it really focused on Montreal?
Yeah, so our organization, Montreal International, is focusing on Montreal, but obviously the Quebec government as a whole is also promoting Quebec, the study in the great province of Quebec. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's have a look at the results of the poll and the language proficiency of the Montrealians, if I say that correctly. I guess people are very have a high expectation. Is that correct?
Yeah. So it's a bit less. It's 20%, but obviously, hopefully, it will increase. But 20% of the population. But you have to remember that also close to 55% of the population is bilingual, so speaking French and English, and obviously French is the official language of Quebec and Montreal. Yeah.
20% alors. Well, I'm sure that if we had the same question for Toronto or Vancouver, no offense, the results wouldn't be that.
Would be different.
Right, interesting. So let's start with the structure of your organization, Mathieu. So Montréal International, you say it's the government of Quebec, the city of Montreal, the institutions.
Yeah, so we're a public-private partnership, but Montreal International as a whole is funded by the Canadian government, the Quebec government, the City of Montreal, the community of the metropolitan area. But our project, our initiative for international students, I Choose Montreal, is funded by the Quebec government. We launched our activities, as I mentioned, in 2016. So we have two main mandates. So we work with the international student community in Montreal to offer information and services to the ones that are in Montreal already, and we promote Montreal abroad to future international students. So why Montreal is a great destination to study. And I mentioned that Montreal International was created in 1996, and obviously as an economic promotion agency, there's promotion in our mandate. So we're used to promote Montreal for the last 25 years almost, and we promote to future foreign investors, international organizations, and talent, senior workers. So we built the foundation close to 25 years and it was a key assets for us to promote and to launch our new activities to international students and build synergies with these mandates actually. And maybe I can just explain a little bit, but obviously we're close to local employers, so foreign subsidiaries, international organizations, startups. So when students are coming to Montreal, we are working hard with these employers to match international students to employers, and that's part of the promotional strategy. And even if these services are local, and that's important because we can show to future candidates that their student experience will work hard to make this experience the more complete ever. So because students are looking for a more exhaustive, complete student experience abroad. So not only the studies, but the work. So our relationship, our close relationship with employers, it's an example of how, of the added value maybe of our structure as an economic promotion agency. And obviously we're able to promote our growing sectors, our high-tech sectors abroad, and also the research fields related to those sectors. So what are the opportunities for future students?
Wow, so much to offer. You also mentioned the job market, and I have a question from the audience about that in a second. So before we go there, we'd also like to see the 30-second Montreal video.
We gathered responses from students and prospective students about what they thought about the world's best student cities. 5 key themes. First, it's a beautiful city. Architecturally, environmentally, the whole city is seen as very attractive. Second, it's affordable. Particularly rents have been mentioned, but also other aspects. Third, the quality of institutions. They are all very well ranked. Fourth, the scene, arts, culture, the nightlife, things that students want to do. And finally, the multiculturalism that stems from that makes Montreal seem like a very welcoming international city.
Great, thank you, Mathieu. Definitely a full menu of ingredients that are available to prospective students. We're talking about the job market, and a question here from Paris. What are the main challenges of working in a city where Francophone and Anglophone job markets coexist? The person writing this question is writing from Paris, where they have a mix of Anglophone and Francophone international students.
As I mentioned, I think Montreal, you asked, Maria, Stockholm, what differentiates Stockholm from other student cities? As a destination. In Montreal, obviously, is a Francophone city in North America. It's really specific. French is the official language, but also it's a bilingual city. So as I mentioned, 55% are speaking French and English, and more than 20%. So it's really a diverse environment. And for the job market, so obviously, future graduates will work in an environment where it's an advantage, an asset to to speak multiple languages. So obviously, knowledge of French, it's important. It varies from different industries, but it's really important. And also the knowledge of English is a big part. And also speaking often third languages to connect with maybe your own country or different, because there are a lot of international organizations. So I think we always promote this as an opportunity for students to want to study in French or in English, and maybe work in French or in English. So I think in North America, it's really a specific environment that provides a lot of opportunities, more opportunities in terms of language and work environment.
Right. Very interesting. I think it's always good, of course, to be able to speak two languages and have opportunities on two job markets at the same time or more. The topic you had suggested for your section now is the added value of a regional economic agency in the promotion of a region or metropolis as a study destination. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit more about the economic agency you're working with?
Yeah. No, so the added value of Montreal International as an economic agency, a promotion agency to help promote international students abroad. As I mentioned, we build this expertise. So we have great expertise to promote the city and work with the institutions. For example, we're promoting Greater Montreal for investments and for talent. We did that over 25 years. So we know what are the key assets what are the key advantages for talent. So quality of life, the work market. So we over the last 10 years, we promoted Montreal to future senior workers. So since 16, obviously we have experienced staff in economic affairs, in communications. So this team also is building the argument, was building the argument over 20 years. So we can use that to promote to future international students, but also to develop tools, also concrete tools and reliable tools to institutions. So we're talking about their toolbox at Montreal International. How can we complete the educational institution toolbox to promote Montreal abroad? So we develop videos, we develop promotional campaigns. We have a blog. We have also a tool to compare what are the costs for students in Montreal compared to other cities. So we have the team, the experienced staff to develop those tools and provide them to institutions. So I think the expertise also of our team is really an asset. The synergies with the other mandates of Montreal International. Obviously, also we developed our international network and our local network over the last 25 years. So working with the delegations, the Quebec representations, the Canadian representations. So this is really important. And one last thing, we're, as an economic promotion agency, also we're used to work with multiple partners. So the Quebec government, the governments, the Canadian governments, the City of Montreal. We worked with the educational institutions, the startups. So we are a neutral organizations that connects this ecosystem, and I think make it a plus for the students, but also for the educational institutions. And also, it's important as part of our strategy to promote the vocational training institutions, the pre-university technical institutions, and the university. So, as a neutral organization, we can gather those organizations, those institutions, and maybe increase our impact abroad, because that's really the challenge during those times, actually, the pandemic, but also during the normal situation. It's how, as a whole, can we increase be more competitive, increase the reputation, and I think we play a humble and part in this ecosystem, and we're trying to support the institution first and answer international students' needs first. Yeah.
Right. So Mathieu, it's really there's really a joint effort of various players that play a role in the promotion of a city as a study destination, from the institutions to the economic agency, as you mentioned, to even students themselves, to alumni, to local business. I mean, in your case, it's a public-private partnership. I guess there are some parallels here with how Stockholm is doing that, as they are bringing different organizations together. Maybe a nice moment for Maria, who we had in the first section, to see if she recognizes some of these efforts, as she herself is also working with different organizations, 18 universities, and of course the Stockholm government. Maria, would you have anything to ask Mathieu about their efforts? They have 25 years of experience, so there might be some insights.
Yeah, that's impressive already to have done such a good job for a long time. But I was thinking about, since Montreal is such an international city, it must be an advantage to attract international students. So I wonder, from which countries do the majority of your international students come?
Great, thank you, Maria. So our students, obviously, since we have a student can study in French or in English, sometimes also maybe we have specific programs, or you can also in Spanish. But so students mainly are coming from France, are coming also from Maghreb, from West Africa, but also obviously China, India, even Iran. So these are the main countries or regions, and I think that's key because we have different strategies, and obviously we try to promote to the Francophone, let's say, countries, and also promote to other countries where students maybe want to study in English or maybe learn French or study in French. So, and in some countries we have double strategy. So maybe in China, I think you spoke about China previously. So obviously in China, also French is important also. So how can we promote Montreal as another destination to learn French? But there are already a lot of Chinese students in Montreal. So these are the main countries, and we have a double strategy also. Yeah.
I just had one following question, a quick one. Since you're French speaking, do you have any agreements together with the European Union so the students can profit from Erasmus programs? From Erasmus programs from the European Union partnership program?
Montreal International, no, we don't. We, as an economic agency, we don't have those partnerships. But obviously, institutions have partnership with European universities. But obviously, I mentioned France, but it's important to mention that with France and with Belgium, the Quebec government has some agreements, and the tuition fees are less expensive for those students from those two countries. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mathieu. Time is flying. We're already 3 minutes over time, and I want to quickly bring back Francisco and David into the discussion. It's such an interesting topic, and all these destination marketing organizations or regional economic agencies, no matter how you call them, in the end, it depends on partnerships between the institutions, between the local governments and other institutions that are relevant to them. And I think we're all looking forward to when the borders are reopening again. One last question I get here for the audience, and I'll invite one of you to answer that. What do you think is the most important message to get out to students who are just now starting to consider where to study international? Who would like to take that one? David, would you like to take that one?
I think really any student who is considering where they're going to study now really should be considering two things. One is what it is that they want to study. What is it that they want to do? What do they, where do they want to see themselves in 5 or 10 years' time? But then also, I think the second thing is consider the destination. So not only the academic program, but the rest of it, the living, the environment, the cultural, the historical, and above all, we always say to international students, above everything else, we'd like you also to have fun as well. So if I was I'm very old to be making a decision about international study, but if I were, I'd be considering all of those things.
That makes a lot of sense indeed. Francisco, would you like to add something to that?
I totally second what David said. I mean, studying abroad is a life-changing experience. So that, for the good and the bad reasons as well, could be. So being very careful about selecting your destination, I think, is key, and that goes beyond. What you want to study. That for sure is important, but pay close attention to your destination and what your destination has to offer to you. That's a key element.
Thank you, Francisco. Back to the international student being such an important demographic for cities to focus on. Would all four of you agree that the international student in your city remains one of the top, if not the top demographic for a city to promote itself to? And I'll start with Mathieu.
Obviously, it's important right now to connect with international students, and there are more than 40,000 international students in Greater Montreal. So obviously, 12 universities, 50 vocational educational training centers, 50 colleges. So it's important. It's part of the community. It's important for research, the economy. So it's for us, and I think for my colleagues, it's important to still connect with those with this community in Montreal and abroad.
But yeah, I think you can only agree with that.
Yeah, of course, it's the same situation here, and I think when I look a little bit how Stockholm is working and Sweden in all, we try maybe in general not only talk about students but also about researchers, scholars, and of course even more general international talent. We need that. We're a small country with many big international companies, so we hope that students come here and hope them to stay, and of course come into the businesses here. And I also, yeah, to not only students, but there are also doctoral students, and they have a longer life than just at the university.
Very true, very true. David.
Yes, look, I think as the other two speakers have said, as I've mentioned, international students are absolutely critical to our city, a massive part of our city. And I think one of the things that probably hasn't been mentioned is that we also take a view that not only in terms of the research value, but also the soft diplomacy, the fact that in many cases, these students return, as I said, to their countries and move into decision-making positions, government positions, heads of industry and so on. And that's really important for us to be able to have such strong relations around the world from our alumni. And I think that's a really important thing for us as a city. So of course, international education is critical. The research is absolutely critical, but also the soft diplomacy is really important.
Thank you, David. Francisco, last words.
Just to, I agree with all that has been said. I mean, you said at the beginning, you talked a little bit at the beginning about international students as an underestimated demographics. For many people, that could be, the case, but not for cities and not for university cities or cities with a strong educational background. So for all of the cities that are present today, I think it's a key demographic. We are going to continue to promote it, and not only for the reasons that I mentioned, but I want to again second what David said. For a city such as Buenos Aires, the soft power that international students generate is key for the city as well.
Definitely. And of course, we all agree that it's a very important and attractive demographic. And I'd like to remind everyone that indeed the partnerships are very important. And I would definitely suggest partnerships also with the student recruitment agencies that are there around the world. The majority of international students, they enroll at their institutions through these agencies. So if any destination feels like, hey, I want to promote my destination worldwide, it's definitely a good idea to do so in cooperation, not with just with your local bodies and institutions, but also with the agencies that could represent your destination around the world. Having said that, I would like to thank everyone for their contribution. It's early morning, it's late in the evening, we've been preparing. I think it went all very fluent, and I'm sure there will be more questions from the audience. They can send it to marketing@icef.com. As I mentioned, a recording will be sent to all the viewers and those registered probably later this week, if not early next week. And do keep following icef.com/webinars. We'll have periodically a new webinar on a new topic, any topic that is relevant to the international student recruitment industry. And if not, I hope to see most, if not many, if not all of you at ICEF events that are currently online. Check icef.com/events for the events that are coming up. But I hope actually, just like we hope that students will be able to travel again, that we can all travel again and not stare at a screen, but look each other in the face in a proper chat. Thank you, everyone. Thank you also, Shannon, for moderating the Q&A. Thank you to Ariana for
Thank you.
support. And thanks to the ICEF team.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.